Okay, let's do this. There are so many exciting books coming out in July, and I wish I had time to read all of them, but I do not. Here are the 15 books that I am most excited for. I will not be reading the entire description, just a portion of the description. I will have all of these books listed in the description of this video. If any of these sound interesting to you, you can definitely check them out. And let's get started. The first book that I'm excited about comes out on July 11th. I don't have any books coming out before July 11th that I know of that I'm also super excited about. This one is an urban fantasy with a gorgeous cover, and it mentions dragon magic, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm excited to find out. A female John Wick story with dragon magic set in contemporary San Francisco's Chinatown. What's a retired assassin to do but save the city by the bay from an army of the dead? The next book also comes out on July 11th, and it is The Traitor by Anthony Ryan. This is a third book in a trilogy, and I've not read anything by Anthony Ryan yet, but I do plan on picking up one of his books soon. His best-selling fantasy trilogy, The Covenant of... oh my goodness. It's almost 4th of July. In this gritty, heart-pounding conclusion to the New York Times best-selling fantasy trilogy, The Covenant of Steel, Alwyn must make a difficult decision between his heart and his morals as he prepares for his final battle. The next book also coming out on July 11th is Dark Water Daughter, and I am excited for this because it says pirate fantasy, and after reading The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi, I am interested in basically anything labeled as pirate fantasy. A storm singer and a pirate hunter join forces against a deathless pirate lord in this swashbuckling Jacobean adventure on the high seas. Come sail the winter sea for an action-packed, high-stakes adventure, rich characterization, and epic plots full of intrigue and betrayal. Our next July 11th book is one of only 2 historical fiction books I have on this list. This is about a time period in history that I'm not really familiar with, and it sounds really cool. A novel based on the life of an extraordinary Black woman from history, Haiti's Queen Marie Louise Coy-David, who escaped a coup in Haiti to set up her own royal court in Italy during the Regency era, where she became a popular member of the Royal European Society. And the final book on this list that comes out July 11th is a sci-fi book with an absolutely gorgeous cover and a really intriguing description. A diverse, exciting debut space opera about a young tea expert who is taken as a political prisoner and recruited to spy on government officials, a role that may empower her to win back her nation's independence. The next book comes out July 18th, and it is called Immortal Longings. This is from the author that wrote These Violent Delights, which I have not read, but she is now writing an adult historical fantasy, which I am really excited to read. YA author Chloe Gong's adult epic fantasy debut, inspired by Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, is a fiery collision of power plays, spilled blood, and romance amidst a set of deadly games. Our next July 18th release is Blade of Dream by Daniel Abraham. Daniel Abraham is one of those fantasy authors that I feel like I really need to get into one of these days. From the critically acclaimed author Daniel Abraham comes the second novel in a monumental epic fantasy trilogy that unfolds within the walls of a single great city over the course of one tumultuous year. In Kithamar, every story matters, and the fate of the city is woven from them all. Our next July 18th release is Ethera Grave, which is the third and final book in the Graven trilogy, so I can totally binge read this trilogy now. I am going to read from the description of book 1 in the trilogy because I don't want to give anything away. Caden's planet is destroyed, his family gone, and his only hope for survival is a crew of misfit aliens and a mysterious ship that seems to have a soul and universe of its own. Our final July 18th release is the Jasad Heir, which is the first book in a new series. This is a historical fantasy that just sounds so interesting. In this Egyptian-inspired debut fantasy, a fugitive queen strikes a deadly bargain with her greatest enemy and finds herself embroiled in a complex game that could resurrect her scorched kingdom or leave it in the ashes forever. Our next book is a July 25th release, and this is one of the few young adult books I have on this list, but it sounds so interesting. This is one of the books I definitely want to get to as soon as possible. Gideon the Ninth meets Game of Thrones in this dark young adult fantasy about a disgraced ghost-fighting warrior who must journey into a haunted wasteland to rescue a kidnapped prince. Ready your blade, defeat the undead. Our next July 25th release is a historical fantasy. This is based on South American folklore, which I don't really know that much about, but this book sounds very interesting. Eva knows she should fight the temptation. Magic is a sign of the dark god, and using it is punishable by death. Yet it's hard to deny power when it's always been denied to you. Eva is walking a dangerous path, one that gets stranger every day, and in the end, she'll become something she never imagined. Our next July 25th release is a sci-fi book. This is a novella, and I am always here for some shorter stories in sci-fi fantasy. Emergent Properties is the touching adventure of an intrepid AI reporter hot on the heels of a brewing corporate warfare. Our next July 25th release is also a historical fantasy mythology retelling story that has me intrigued. The lives of two women, one desperate only to save her missing sister, the other a witch destined to become the Queen of Norway, entwine in this spellbinding, powerful novel of Viking history and myth. And in the final July 25th release, this is a middle grade fantasy. I don't actually keep up with middle grade fantasy releases as much as I would like to, but this one caught my attention and I am excited for it. Ebony's Song is an enchanting beginning of a West African and African diaspora-inspired fantasy adventure for middle grade readers about a reluctant apprentice to magic and the stolen villagers she sets out to save. And our final July release comes out on July 31st. This is a prequel novella to the Greenbone saga, which I have not read yet, but I did read Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee, and that makes me so excited to dive into her Greenbone saga. Fonda Lee returns to the acclaimed Greenbone saga with 4 prequel short stories that delve into the personal histories of the Call and Aight families. Those are the 15 books I am most excited about that come out in July. There are so many more books that come out in July, so let me know if any of these sound interesting to you and what books you are excited about that come out in July. I hope to see you in another video and happy reading. New light, new mic, who dis? I have been having so much fun with this. I'm so excited I have it. I've been playing with it since I got it. I was thinking about doing green for this video because it is the color of growth, of renewal, of new life, and I'm talking about new books. But I think I'm going to go with blue because blue is not as overpowering, and blue is probably going to be in most of my videos. But this is so much fun to play with. It's exciting. Ah.